Under the United States Constitution, all people, all persons are guaranteed equal protection of the laws. That's the 14th Amendment's guarantee of equal protection of the laws. There's a similar provision under the 5th Amendment. The difference is the 5th Amendment applies to actions by the federal government. The 14th Amendment applies to actions of the state. Well, what does it mean to have equal protection of the laws? It means that whatever law you're talking about, from getting a dog license to freedom of speech, laws against rape and abuse, the equal protection doctrine requires the government to treat you equally. That's what the doctrine says. But unfortunately for women, the law has evolved such that equal treatment of women under the Equal Protection Clause is not required. I know, get your head around this. Women have unequal protection rights under the Equal Protection Clause. How you have unequal equality is challenging to conceive, but that is the state of the law for women in America, and it's been that way since the dawn of our nation. So the way that manifests is by what the courts call layers of scrutiny. If you are fully equal, you get strict scrutiny whenever your case goes before a court, and the court has to decide whether your discrimination you experienced can be tolerated under the Equal Protection Clause. If you have strict scrutiny, the courts tolerate little to no discrimination. If you're at the bottom and you get what's called rational basis scrutiny, almost all discrimination is tolerated by the courts and by the government. If you're in the middle, which is called intermediate scrutiny, a lot of discrimination is tolerated, not as much as the bottom, but much more discrimination is tolerated than what would be tolerated at the top with strict scrutiny. And I describe it this way. If you picture the scrutinies as a triangle, and you draw two lines across, horizontal lines across, strict scrutiny is that little piece at the top. That depicts how much discrimination is allowed by the government. It's a very small piece of a triangle. That means only a little bit of discrimination is tolerated. Women are in the middle, that big piece in the middle, and that reflects the fact that a lot of discrimination is tolerated against women. Our job in the Strict Scrutiny Project is to get women bumped up to strict scrutiny. Now, how you do that is kind of complicated. One of the ways is to get the Equal Rights Amendment into the Constitution, which not only guarantees women equal rights, but also requires strict scrutiny. There's a lot of confusion and controversy about whether the Equal Rights Amendment is currently valid. My view is that it is. Not all courts agree. The other way to do it is to simply argue in court that intermediate scrutiny is unacceptable. In 2025, we just cannot have a hierarchy where some people get better protection under the laws than others. And especially when it comes to literal protection of laws against abuse, for example, you don't want anybody being less well protected from harm in the nature of abuse, period. Once women get up to strict scrutiny, there'll be less violence against women. We filed a new lawsuit. The new lawsuit has been filed primarily on behalf of a team that I work with, a national organization called Equal Means Equal. It makes the argument that it is unconstitutional for women to be denied the opportunity to register for selective service. Now, why is this interesting? Well, we haven't had a draft since 1973, and I don't think anyone thinks we're going to have one anytime soon. But for women who want equality, this is a glaring example of what's allowed under intermediate scrutiny. With intermediate scrutiny, you can have a law that says men can do this, women cannot. Our lawsuit says that's not acceptable. Not only should women be treated the same when it comes to something as important as who gets to fight for their country, but it's about time the courts announced that there's no longer any justification for treating women differently under intermediate scrutiny. It's time to give women strict scrutiny.